Alright guys, so here's the review of the San Martin 6200 Retro Diver. So this is actually Homage in a Rolex, but we'll get onto that in the video, which one it is actually Homage in. So I know I did the unboxing of this one a while ago. I've had a bit of a backlog, been trying to catch up, getting other bits done that I had to get done in between, but finally got around to doing it. Thought I'd get it done in time for the AliExpress sale, because I know a lot of people are interested in this one. So been testing that for quite a bit, like I said. But let's get down into it and see what I thought of it. If you haven't seen the unboxing of this, I'll leave a link to that up here if you want to check that out, see what you actually get in the package. You can probably tell this is a homage of a Rolex, a vintage style one. Can't remember the exact number now, but if I figure it out, I'll leave a picture here on screen so you can see. But they've changed a couple of things. A lot of it is quite similar, including this bracelet as well. This rivet style bracelet. So these are actually double screws on these. If I get a zoom in, you probably see a bit better. Yeah, so there you go. You've got a screw on that side and then a screw on the other side as well. So it is a little bit fiddly, not my favourite kind of design when it comes to screw links, but it works and it does look good. And once you've got them done, you don't really have to do them again because you've got plenty of micro adjust on that clasp. And they've actually redesigned this recently. So if I zoom in again quickly. So originally, where you've got this screw here, that was actually another rivet style one like this. So you couldn't actually use all of the micro adjusts because that would actually hit on the inside of that clasp. But they've changed that now to address that issue. So now you can use all the micro adjusts. No problems at all with that. So while we're around here, let's quickly talk about this clasp. So got that nice San Martin etched into there, but then this is a little bit of an issue I've got with this watch as well. If I quickly flick around to the crown, you'll see we've got a different design for that. We've got the San Martin shark. So we've got the shark on the crown, got that hexagonal San Martin on the clasp, and then we've got that stylized font for the San Martin on the dial. So I would have preferred it if they'd had just one logo design or branding across all three, but it's not that big a deal, I guess. And I do quite like that stylized font, but I would have liked it if they'd had maybe a stylized S on there, and then perhaps just the San Martin across there in the same kind of font, or perhaps just a stylized S on it somewhere maybe. But again, like I say, not a massive deal, but something to just bear in mind. Seeing as we're zoomed in, let's quickly talk about the rest of the dial as well. We've got Mercedes style hands. They're actually done in like a gold kind of colour to go with the rest of the indices. And it does look really nice. They are really nicely finished. Really crisp and clean. And they're lumed as well, but we'll check out the lume a bit later on. So everything's printed on the dial. So printed indices, printed San Martin at the top, 200 meters at the bottom, and then the automatic. Quickly zoom back out, and we'll talk about this crystal. So, got a nice dome crystal on that. We'll be checking in a bit whether it's sapphire. As for the rest of the case, you can see you've got a nice brush case with a nice chamfered polished edge. All really crisply done, really clean, really nice, as you kind of expect with San Martin. And then nicely integrated with that bracelet. We've got male end links on this, would have preferred female ones, but we'll talk about that in a bit when we talk about the measurements. See how that affects it. Get a quick zoom in again actually and show you this bezel, because it is really nicely finished as well. So you've got a nice polished edge on that. Done really well, does look really good. Plenty of grip there as well. And it is a ceramic bezel insert on this. So I'll quickly show you that in action. So it's 120 click. And absolutely rock solid. Zero play in that. Really nice action. And lines up perfectly too, which is always good. At the top we've got that Lume pip. So now let's quickly get onto the measurements of this. Since we briefly touched upon it already. So we've got a thickness of just under 13mm, lug width of 20mm. Now with the diameter, it says it's 38mm on the listing, but in fact before I show you the measurement, you can see that the bezel actually protrudes ever so slightly past the case on either side. So when I measure this, it's going to be measuring from the bezel as opposed to the case. So we've got 39mm instead of 38. If I drop that down, so that bezel's out of the way, it actually is 38 for the case. Because you can see I used that little notch bit there. So 38mm case, but 39 if you take into account the bezel. Now we've got a similar thing with the lug to lug as well. So the actual lug to lug is 45.7, but then if you take into account these male end links on the bracelet, when you're wearing it on the bracelet, it's going to be 51.4. So again, just something to bear in mind, but I'll show you later on what it's like on my 7-inch wrist. But now let's check out whether we've got sapphire crystal on this. Using the trusty diamond selector too. So as you can tell, got sapphire crystal on that, which is always good. Now I'll quickly show you the clasp on this. Briefly mentioned it before. So milled clasp, really nicely done actually. Not a pressed one. It's all solid, which is good to see. And then flicking around to the back, got a sterile case back, as you get with Rolexes, solid end links, so nothing too exciting around there. So now I'll quickly show you the movement in this and talk about that. Before we do, this crown, I think it looks quite nice with the case. It's quite small, and because I was mentioning before, with this bezel sticking out ever so slightly past the case, it's almost kind of recessed. But then because of that, it is a little bit awkward to grip, with it being small as well. So, not the easiest to unscrew. But once you do, we've got an NH35 in this, so because there's no date, we've actually got a ghost date position. You can probably hear that clicking. And then pull it out again, second hand stops, for hacking, and then obviously you can change the time. Then pop it back in again, second hand re-engages, and then screw it back in. Screwing it back in is definitely easier than unscrewing it, I've found. But like I say, it's not overly difficult, it's just a little bit awkward sometimes. But once you get used to it, it's not too bad. So now let's check out the lume on this. So it's not looking too bad already, but let's charge it up, give her a proper chance. So the lume on this is C3, and with it being that vintage kind of style, it's got a bit of a yellow hue to the indices when they're not lumed, but when the lume's kicking in, as you'll be able to tell in a second, it is a nice green. And we got that nice lume pip at the top as well, so everything really evenly applied, no patchiness, no bits lighter or darker than others, which is always good. With it being C3, you know it's going to last a decent amount of time, and because of that domed crystal as well, we get a nice bit of distortion, and you see it kind of reflecting off the sides of the case. It's just a nice effect. So really good lume, as you come to expect really with San Martin. A lot of the other brands that are a bit cheaper on AliExpress tend to cheap out a bit on the lume. That's where you can tell the difference, as well as like the build quality obviously. So you might be paying a bit more for San Martins, but you're definitely getting a lot more quality for that price. So all that's left to do now is show you on wrist. So this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. And I do really like this one. It's just a really quality watch. Everything is so nicely done, so nicely finished. I can't recommend it enough, to be honest. Just bear in mind though, it doesn't really wear like a 38mm, because like I said earlier, that bezel diameter is more like a 39, it does protrude ever so slightly past the edge of the case. And also with these male end links, it does wear a bit larger, because you've got a longer lug to lug. But as you can see, with my 7-inch wrist, it still wears really nicely. But if you have got a smaller wrist, just bear that in mind. That's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.